Hello, children. This is the Extraordinary Rayman because my opinion is just that interesting. I kinda gotta keep it down. It's like 2 o'clock in the morning. My mom is asleep upstairs and she gets mad when I'm too loud. But I had to do this. I'm here to review The Authority, Volume 1. This is the second time I've read this book, but I feel I get a better outlook on a book if I read it twice, at least a comic book. This is fantastic. It's not the next Watchmen. It's not as good as something like Superman Red Son, but this is the epitome of widescreen comic books. It dumbs down not necessarily story, but story development to just focus on all-out epic action and amazingment. Kind of like how you take something like Lord of the Rings, which is this epic fantasy quest. This is the epitome of an epic superhero book. Warren Ellis has these characters who are all, well, basically superhero gods ruling over this earth. And what I find amazing about the roster of characters is you don't have the Superman character and the Batman character. You have a very hodgepodge, ragamuffin group of characters. You have Jenny Sparks, who's the spirit of the 20th century. She has electricity powers and she's 100 years old. She was born on January 1st, 1900. You have the Midnighter, who is kind of like Batman, but he is a superhuman. And you have Apollo, who's kind of like Superman, but he's purely charged by sun, and um, he's an Earthling. You have Swift, who's kind of like Hawkgirl, but she's way stronger and has she can turn her feet into talons. The Doctor, who's the magician, who I think is the weakest of the team because his powers they're not explained, so there's no limit to pretty much what he can do. And you have the Engineer, who she's replaced all of her blood with nanotechnology, so she can basically turn into a robot, morph her body into weapons. She can control machinery. She's really cool. And then you have my favorite guy in it, Jack Hawksmoor, known as the God of Cities. He was abducted by aliens, and they gave him the ability to basically communicate with cities. He doesn't wear shoes. He's got these cleats on his feet that look really cool, so he can communicate with cities, and he's also super strong. But yeah, it's this great collection of characters, and the first story arc concerns this crazy guy from this country. He's basically taken over this island, and he's just a maniacal terrorist. And he has basically a factory that mass produces clones, and that's their first adventure where they go off together. And we learn even in the first issue that while the Authority are doing this for good and they have nothing personal to gain for their endeavors, they're not good people per se. They almost destroy an entire island of innocent people just to get at him. And Jenny Sparks says at the end of it, imagine how many more people would have died if we hadn't done this. It's justifiable in their mind, but it's still mass murdering. It doesn't hurt at all that Brian Hitch's art in these books is stellar. I don't know if he's just kind of like everybody's biatch when it comes to art, because it seems that every time he does a book, they have him draw amazing things. His fight scenes in this are so fluid and good looking. You feel the punches. You see the motion, even though they're not moving, and the pain and the brutality of the fight scenes and the violence in this is pretty intense. But it all looks amazing, and you feel it. You feel it when you watch it. There's just some amazing, things getting torn apart and blown up and explosions. And his faces on the people are just fantastic. Granted, sometimes his women look kind of funny when they smile, but other than that, it's great. The second one it's a little dumbed down. The second story arc is a little dumbed down when you compare it to the first one, but it's equally as fascinating. It's like this alternative Earth where we ran into aliens, and there's this bad guy alien named Regis, which is awesome. His name's Regis. And what he wants to do is their kind is dying off in that alternative universe, so he's going to come to Earth and basically turn China into a rape camp. That's pretty intense for a storyline. Now, something I want to point out about this is, since it's a widescreen comic, there's not a whole lot spent on character development. And the second time through, it's really noticeable because none of these characters have any personality. I don't mean that necessarily as a negative, but since it's on a movie and you don't have the assist of an actor or an actress giving a performance and creating a character through their own actions, you're left with some pretty typical people. Except for Jenny Sparks, she's actually a lot of fun because she's kind of like Cyclops. If Cyclops, was a woman, and kill people and smoked, because she's always get her done kind of attitude, very straightforward, very anal about things, very rude sometimes, but she gets it done. I think she's a lot of fun, and she kind of reminds me of Constantine because she's always smoking. Swift and the Engineer kind of have personalities. They're just kind of like, they're not, in contrast to Jenny Sparks's rudeness, they're kind of nice. But there's a part early on where the Engineer talks about, excuse me, man, what's up with me? Where she says she's not used to fighting and killing and stuff like that. But then at the drop of a hat, all of a sudden, she's like embracing fighting and killing, which, sure, that's a logical conclusion, but she didn't actually come to that. But it's not about the characters. It's about them as icons. They're an incredible collection of unique and creative and all-consuming superpowers, because, as I said earlier, they're like gods and they're not good people. They're the rulers of this planet because they're so powerful. And they're just trying to keep order. Something I do want to point out is this book gets a lot of, not controversy, but recognition for featuring two homosexual characters, that being Apollo and the Midnighter, which I find kind of funny on Warren Ellis's part, because they're the Batman Superman characters. I wonder if he's trying to say anything with that. I think he has gone on the record as saying he doesn't like superheroes. Or is that Alan Moore? I don't know. Anyway, the point is, I think it's well handled because they're not in your face. They're just two people who their sexual orientation is gay. It's not the defining aspect of their character, but when you take into account the fact that they don't have a lot of character, it is kind of weird, because I don't really see here am I putting on my gay hat for a second. I don't see how what Apollo would see in him. Apollo was kind of like a more upstanding type of guy from what we get to him, and the Midnighter is a brutish, brutal, brooding, beat 'em up kind of guy. He doesn't take any crap from anybody. He's not afraid to just beat the crap out of anybody. And how someone as dignified and polished as Apollo would, be interested in him, I don't know. But I also love, going back to like Brian Hitch's art, kind of is the designs of the characters, and they have this nice halfway between having costumes and kind of having normal clothes. Jenny Sparks kind of just wears like a t-shirt and like a white suit. Jack Hawksmoor kind of just wears like a black suit too. But then like Midnighter has like a trench coat on with a mask, and Apollo has a very straight up superhero costume. And I think that looks really cool because we have like the modern super suits are stupid kind of mentality, but we have the classic you gotta wear a superhero suit if you're a superhero. Anyway, this is awesome stuff right here. If you like superhero comics, especially if you're a big fan of widescreen comics that are adequate on story but big on epic and ideas and stuff like that, you definitely got to get this. Now be warned, volume 1 of this is discontinued. You can't buy it in like a store. you have to get it online, but you can find it pretty cheap. I got it for like $10 on Amazon, and it was well worth. This is gonna be awesome, and it gets better. It gets better when Frank Miller hops on. This is the Extraordinary Rayman signing off. I will see you next time.